Welcome to Duo Tech Talks. I'm John Oberheide, co-founder and CTO at Duo Security. Are you guys familiar with Duo? Standing ovations, thank you. This is the raving applause. We host Duo Tech Talks kind of all over the country. We're based in, headquartered in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but we have a San Mateo office out here. So we like to bring the party out to the Bay Area. And we have a very special talk today that starts with some sort of liability waiver and / NDA. So if you've signed that and included your birth date and password, then you've already failed the social engineering test. But seriously, sign that if you want to participate. Rachel will thank you, and please don't sue her. Yeah, as part of the talk today, Rachel will be doing an exercise as well as giving a talk about some of her experiences. But we're really excited to host Rachel Toback. She's the CEO of SocialProof Security. She is the winner, how many times, of the DEFCON social engineering contest? Twice? Back-to-back or back-to-back? So undefeated, going for the three-peat this year. That still counts. That counts. If you guys have never checked out the DEFCON social engineering contest, it's really cool. They call people live and social engineer all of their credentials and access and information just on the phone. So Rachel's going to be showing some of that to us today. So please give Rachel a warm welcome.
Thank you. Can you see me? Can you hear me? Awesome. Thanks so much for coming today. Thank you, Duo Security. Super pumped about this. Let's get started. Turn your attention to this GIF of a dog opening the door. The best way to protect your data, fellow employees, client data, and grow a business at the very same time is to realize that every picture that you post from work, any status, photo, anything at all, is a potential backdoor to your data. That's how it connects. This is something that I've learned through experience. I found myself, again, winning the social engineering capture the flag 2 times, second place, very consistent. Both times I lost to a man named Chris. So 2 different men named Chris. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my experience at DEFCON today, and then you are going to get a chance to actually sit in the hacker seat, and you will get a real live target, and you will be able to hack that target today. My story is a perfect example of the vulnerability that we all face, because when I was a noob many years ago, I was able to infiltrate a cybersecurity company and a gaming company over the phone in a glass booth in front of 400 people at DEFCON. We will talk a lot about the detail today. You might want to take a little bit of notes. You can feel free to take them on the back of where you put your social security number, because you are actually going to be doing that hacking. So let's start a little bit with how much money people lose with social engineering. On average, each social engineering attack, people lose $11.7 million. That is staggering. And we now know, as of 2017, that the majority of cyber attacks now start with social engineering. So it's past 50%. Let's get into upfront takeaways. Number 1, to keep your data safe, we all need to remember that when we take a picture or post a status, we can't take it in front of the workstation. That hashtag Throwback Thursday picture, I'm able to see all of your workstation. I can see all of the software that you have, and I can use that to craft an exploit to infiltrate your machine. Number 2, if you do post about it, do not let someone authenticate with that information. We need to remember that this is the antidote to that first point. People might talk a little bit online, this is what I do, these are the activities that I do, but you have to realize that that information could be used to infiltrate a company. Someone's going to try and build rapport with you with that, and you have to keep that in mind. Number 3, hackers might just sound a little more different than you might expect. I am under 5 feet. I'm a hacker. I've infiltrated multiple companies. So you're going to want to make sure that you don't give away seemingly mundane information. That innocuous stuff is the stuff that could get you hacked. So who am I? I'm Rachel Toback, and as for the people on the live stream, hi! You can tweet at me at Rachel Toback if you have questions. I am the CEO and co-founder of SocialProof Security, and we teach people about what opens them up to social engineering risks and help them step into the shoes of a human-based hacker through social engineering trainings, workshops, and pen tests. In my spare time, I sit on the board of the nonprofit Women in Security and Privacy, called WISP, and we train and promote women to lead in that field. And at night, dun dun dun, the hacker comes out. I'm a white hat hacker. I infiltrate companies. I use mainly social media to do it, so anybody can do it. And I'm going to tell you exactly today how to do it, and you will actually try it. So how did I get into this? I married an engineer. He's right there. Hi, Evan. He's a cybersecurity researcher, and he's a technical hacker. And he calls me from DEFCON many years ago, and he's like, I think you should probably come to DEFCON. And I'm at work in my non-technical job, and I answer the phone. I'm like, I don't think that's relevant for me. I really appreciate you trying to include me, but I'm probably going to decline. And he's like, no. You know how you always call Comcast and you get the bill lowered every month? I'm like, okay. It's like, they actually do that in a glass booth in front of an audience, and people win prizes by doing this. Okay, I guess I'll try it. I fly out, I end up trying it as a noob, and I ended up becoming a winner of the social engineering Capture the Flag on my first ever try. So I'll go over a little bit more about DEFCON, but first, if you're comfortable sharing, who has heard of DEFCON? Here, I'm not social engineering you, I'm just interested in getting a feel for the room. So in case you're not aware of what DEFCON is the largest hacker conference in the world, and it's attended by about 25,000 people every year. In terms of social engineering, what is that? Social engineering is any act that influences a person to take an action that may or may not be in their best interest. We also social engineer children to eat their vegetables. So it's not necessarily bad to do social engineering. SE tactics are considered to be the majority of cyber attacks start. So generally people are going to start with a vishing call, a phishing email, or an on-site attack, just to get a feel for things before they jump in and do that technical attack. And the SECTF, or Social Engineering Capture the Flag, that's that live spectator sport I was talking about. And it's basically SE to pen test live companies over the phone. They are not aware that they are actually being targeted. So whenever we call people, they don't know about it, they have not authorized it, and it's a one-time show, so we can't record it because it's two-party consent in most areas of the United States. So if you're there, you get to see it. If not, you never get to see it. At the end, a report is also given to that target company so they know how to keep their information safe. Usually they're very gracious and accepting of it. Sometimes they get very angry. My target was very angry. So what are the rules of the SECTF? These are some of the things that we'll do a little bit today, so you should keep these in mind. We receive a target company, and we have exactly 20 days to find 30 pieces of information that should be hidden for proper security. Now today, you're not gonna have 20 days. You're gonna have 30 minutes. So it's gonna be an accelerated version of the SECTF. There's no emailing, calling, or hacking the target before you get on the stage in the glass booth. And we have to responsibly disclose of any security concerns. So we can't just go broadcasting that out on the internet. Same with today. Anything that you find will stay here, and we will not broadcast it. So let's get into some definitions. You're probably familiar vaguely with the majority of this stuff, but you will be doing it today, so I want to make sure you have it all down. The target is the company that you are going to pen test. Each of you will have a target today for our OSINT CTF. OSINT is open source intelligence. And this is open and publicly available sources of information that require no illegal activity to obtain. So during our OSINT CTF today, you're just going to find stuff that exists on things like Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. No need to start hacking and actually infiltrating companies to do it. Next is pretext. This is a practice as presenting as someone else to obtain private information, things that should be held. Next we have vector. This is a path or means by which a hacker can gain access to a computer or a network to deliver a malicious outcome. Attack vectors can exploit system vulnerabilities, or in the case of social engineering today, we'll be exploiting human vulnerabilities. Next is spoofing. This is a practice of causing caller ID to show a number that you're not actually calling from. We won't be doing this today, but this is a regular practice for social engineers. Vishing is an electronic fraud tactic. It's basically calling up somebody over the phone and hacking them via the phone. Flag is a piece of information for the Capture the Flag game with a certain number of points associated with it. The more sensitive the piece of information, the higher point value is allocated to that flag. So you'll get a chance to go over flags today, and you'll probably want to go over the highest point value flags today. So what types of information are social engineers targeting? This was particularly interesting to me because before I was a social engineer, I was a client-facing member of a company. So I picked up the phone, I was a community manager. People asked me weird questions all the time. So I used to wonder what was okay to answer and what should I not answer. As I mentioned before, the types of information that we target during the SCCTF are seemingly innocuous. So which operating system is in use is worth 10 points, which is worth more than the question of whether or not they block websites, that's 4 points, because it's potentially more malicious if the OS info ends up in the wrong hands. But many times people don't realize that they shouldn't give out that type of information. What browser do they use is worth 5 points, but the version of the browser is worth 8 points because, of course, you can truly target your exploit to that machine if you have the version. And SEs are interested in things like which mail client you use, what antivirus you have on your computer, if you use disk encryption. Those are all worth 5 points today. The highest point value, something we're not going to be doing today, is 26 points. And this is getting someone to go to a fake malicious URL over the phone. It happens many times during the SCCTF. It's not going to happen today because we will not be calling targets, but I will go over my scripts. So you might be asking yourself, well, why does this work on people? Aren't people aware of the fact that this happens? Isn't this common knowledge? It might be common knowledge, but there are certain things that are human nature, called Cialdini's 6 principles of persuasion, that actually make it so that people always want to answer your questions. The first thing is reciprocity. If you offer something first, people feel a sense of indebtedness. They feel like they need to comply with any subsequent requests that you've said. So we're hardwired to be reciprocal. Many times an SE will give a false piece of information to encourage you to reveal information about yourself. So I might say something like, oh, it's not working on my Windows machine. Maybe it's because I'm on Windows. And that person might say, well, I'm on Windows and it works for me. That's how we get that type of information out of people. Number 2 is commitment and consistency. We have to make thousands of choices every single day, and it's way too hard to make the 1,000 individual choices. So what we do instead is we make 1 or 2 choices, and we use that same logic and apply it across the rest of the choices that we make. So if I'm on the call with somebody and people start giving me information, they don't want to seem inconsistent or irrational by saying, wait, hold up, we've been talking for 15 minutes, but I suddenly feel weird. Right? They just keep talking and talking, if I can make them feel comfortable in the beginning. 3 is social proof. We trust things that are endorsed by other people that we trust. People like experts, large groups of people, our coworkers. And so a social engineer understands this, and we mention other people who have quote unquote complied, people that we know you know, people that we find from your Instagram or Twitter. And then you're likely to comply as well, because you've already seen that social proof that it should be done. Next is liking. We tend to trust things that we like. So people make split-second decisions based on voice tone, the way the way you deliver information, hashtags you use, anything at all, right? So what a social engineer will do is they will actually look up how you speak. If you're that target, I'm going to try and find an Instagram video of you, Snapchat, something on Facebook or YouTube, and I'm going to mimic the way that you talk. I'm going to match your cadence. I'm going to match the words that you use so that you feel more comfortable around me and I feel more natural to ask you questions. The next one is authority. We follow along with people who seem like they know what they're doing. A social engineer knows this, and so they'll use elevated titles or tone or demeanor to try and make sure that they come off like an authority on the subject. And the last one is scarcity. We're more likely to act under a sense of urgency. And so what we'll do is we time box requests. We might say something like, I need this information from you right now, and we might play a sound of an airplane taking off in the background. I'm on the runway, I really need help right now, right? We do this so that we can get information quickly. You're gonna also see in a second that scarcity is used in the next video.
So I invited a few of the world's best hackers to try to hack me and show me where my vulnerabilities are. And now I'm going to meet them in Las Vegas for DEFCON, the biggest hacker convention of the year. They're going to hack me using social engineering, which is essentially hacking without any code. They just use a phone and an internet connection.
Do you want to do a sample phishing call?
What's phishing?
Phishing is voice solicitation, and basically what you do is you use the phone to extract information or data points that can be used in a later attack.
Let's do it. Who are you going to call?
Maybe I'll call your cell phone provider and
Okay.
see if I can get them to give me your email address.
I bet they're good. I bet they have my back. But yeah, go for it.
I'm going to spoof from your number, so it's going to look like it's calling from you.
Okay.
Hi, I'm so sorry. Can you hear me okay? My baby, I'm sorry. my husband's like, we're about to apply for a loan and we just had a baby and he's like, get this done by today. So I'm so sorry. I can't call you back. I'm trying to log into our account for uses information and I can't remember what email address we used to log the account. The baby's crying and can you help me? Awesome.
In just 30 seconds,
At gmail.com?
Jessica gets access to my personal email address.
Now, if I needed to add our older daughter on our account so she could call in and make changes, how would I need to go about doing that? You would have to send me a secure PIN through a text message? Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think I'll be able to receive a text message if I'm on the phone. Oh, I'm not on there either? So I thought when we got married, he added me to the account.
Jess uses my girlfriend's name and a fake social security number
5127.
to set up her own personal access to my account.
Wait, I'm sorry, so there's no password on my account right now? Can I set that up?
She even gets the support person to change my password.
Thank you so much for your help today.
So she just basically blocked me out of my own account.
I'll get her fed after this. All right, thank you.
Holy shit. So they just gave you access to my entire cell phone account.
You're gonna have to go on and change your password now because it's Jess, my name.
And all it took was a crying baby and a phone call.
Yeah.
It's pretty terrifying, right? So you might be asking yourself, how exactly did she use that information to leverage with that phone company to be able to get access? So I'll walk through a little bit about how that works. A piece of information like what service provider somebody uses can sound really innocuous, really useless, right? Just knowing that he used Verizon. That sounds like, who cares? I tell people I use Verizon all the time. I take screenshots of my phone, I post it on Twitter, and you can see that I use Verizon all the time. But there's a big problem with that because I can use that to go into your account and change your information. So I'll go into a little more detail. Before I started SE, I wouldn't think twice about answering someone's question like, who does your pest extermination? Something like that. But now I understand that this information can be used to look up that vendor on LinkedIn. Now I can look them up on LinkedIn and I can see everything about that company. Maybe they have pictures of all the different companies they go within. They have their uniform, how they sound, how they talk. So your company could have state-of-the-art security with firewalls, port security on, your networks could be segmented. You might use two-factor to access the VPN. But if I can see through my OSINT that your pest extermination service provider posts on LinkedIn with what their uniform looks like, what their point of contact is at that company, and what their schedule looks like, I can show up and pretend to be one of them. I know what they look like. I know what I should sound like. I know who I need to talk to when I get there, right? And if I can do that, I'm likely gonna have your trust. And if I have your trust, I'm likely gonna have access to your machines. So if I have access to your machines, I can bypass every security measure you've painstakingly set up. Exfiltrate data, insert malware, AKA, game over. So let's go into exactly what type of social media I am using to own different machines. This is the type of information you will be using during your OSINT CTF. So you're gonna wanna write some of this stuff down, write down some of these tips and tricks. My OSINT reports are usually 70 pages of pictures, posts, statuses, badges of my target company. If I could encourage any type of change, it would be instituting clear social media guidelines for employees and third-party vendors, since this is what helps me infiltrate companies the most. The first thing, do not take pictures with your badge on the first day of work and post them to Instagram with a #blessed caption. I see that so often, and now I know how to get into your world. I find 60% of the information that I need on Instagram alone. All of those flags are on Instagram. Do not snap your client lists and post it with the vignette filter on Twitter and think that I can't see through it. I can, and now I know all the phone numbers to call. Pictures of you sitting at your desk with your feet up on the table, tagged to your company via geolocation on Instagram, can give me everything I need. What OS you use, which browser and version, which mail client, make and model of your computer, all of your interests from your desk and your photos and your trinkets. And I can pass that off for a technical attack, or I can use it to build rapport with you on the phone during a phishing attack. Research also shows that social media use has increased, but the understanding of acceptable social media use has actually decreased over time. In a survey of 1,012 US workers by MediaPro, they found in the last year, 14% of respondents were willing to take potentially risky actions on their social media accounts. But that percentage went up to 20% this year. So what we're seeing is that we're using social media more and more, but we are not at this time getting any smarter about it. We're making more and more mistakes. So where exactly do SEs find what they need on social media? We use Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and then Indeed, Glassdoor, Quora, and Reddit. Instagram is huge for geotag searching and hashtag searching. That's definitely what I recommend the most for the SOSA and CTF. We'll go over an example in a second. Facebook has this tool that is not sponsored by Facebook, sorry Facebook people in the audience, I know you're here, which is called Search is Back. And it's kind of like an OSINT gathering tool. It has all the information that is public, and you can search it really easily. Twitter, I do a lot of hashtag and picture searching. And for LinkedIn, vendor tags and photos. You can find information about your target by targeting the vendor. And then Indeed, Glassdoor, Quora, and Reddit, pretty obvious, but there's just tell-alls, reviews, photos. If you need to know how to commiserate with an employee, you're gonna read up on their Reddit posts, their AMA, right? What do people love about the company? What do they hate about it? Stuff like that. And the last thing, it's not social media, so I don't usually include it on the slide, but Google Maps is huge because oftentimes I can see the different types of tools that you might use. Sometimes they're gonna have like a dumpster, and now I know who does your trash removal service, and I might pose as that vendor to gain access to your machines or computers or anything like that. So let's go over the Instagram OSINT example. Again, Instagram is the best tool. It's probably what you're gonna wanna use the most. On Instagram, the biggest tool that I use is the Places feature all the way on the right. So what you can do is you can search for your target, type it in there, find all the addresses that your target has. You can then go through and look for all those workstation photos. That's how you're gonna find make and models of everything, badges, entry points, operating systems in use, email examples, who their clients are. You can also find phone numbers to call from business cards and things like that. And this is the example of the Facebook OSINT. So you can use this, search through everything. The search capabilities are pretty robust, so you can target the target itself or vendors that you find from that target to find information. Let's go over exactly how I pick my targets. So to Vish, I need a phone number. If I can find your phone number on Instagram from your business card that you posted, then I'm definitely gonna test it to see if you pick up. My selection of targets depend most on whether or not I have direct access to their phone number, and the second most important thing is whether or not they are in the business of helping people. If you're in the business of helping people, like closing sales, setting up special events, you're a hiring manager, customer support, that's the people that I'm gonna target the most. Because Had Nagy, the person who basically wrote the book on social engineering, says the 4 most important words in social engineering are, can you help me? You probably heard that from that video that we saw, right? Can you help me? My baby's crying. That's what people say, okay? So you can look out for that when you're trying to spot a social engineer, or you can use it if you're trying to social engineer somebody. It's also important to realize that this is something that people do a lot. They'll talk over the phone, they'll say, can you help me? They'll continue talking really fast. One thing I want people to walk away with is, it's okay to say no. Totally okay to say no. I get shut down a lot. And every single time that it happens, I'm so excited because that person followed protocol. It's not awkward to say, I'm sorry, who are you again? And every time somebody says that, I hang up because there's usually an easier target out there. I'm gonna go through the path of least resistance. I don't wanna try and convince somebody of something. But if I hit that wall every single time, I'm sorry, who are you again? Who are you again? Can I help you with something? I'm like, screw it, move on. I'm gonna go to a different target company, right? Let's talk about how I pick my pretext. You might recognize this here, Leonardo DiCaprio. I wanted to try and sneak in a Leo GIF, even though we have a mostly male audience today. Hopefully you can appreciate it. The pretext that you have is more than just a lie. Usually it's an in-depth study of who your target is. So generally, I'm finding somebody who posts a lot on social media, and I am assuming their identity. It's very creepy, okay? So I'm finding things about their job, their coworkers, their activities, their family, and I am posing as that person. So I'm not just lying, I assume everything about them. And if I can pretend like I'm an insider, generally I have more access. People trust me more. So generally when I'm picking a pretext, who I'm pretending to be, I'm going to pick your coworker's coworker's friend, or I'm going to pick your boss's boss's boss, right? I'm going to try and find somebody who's loosely connected to you, somebody who you know their name. You're aware that they exist, but you don't know them super well. And you might ask, well, how is it possible that I could know whether or not you know them super well? It's actually really easy to find on things like social media, any email records. It's like publicly available, right? People post things all the time. And if I can find who you're friends with, who you communicate with a lot, I know who to target and who to pretext as. So here's a picture of me in that glass booth talking a little bit about what we did at SECTF. The audience is huge. You're not going to have to do that today, so don't worry, but give you a little context about what it looks like. The pretext that I picked for these two calls they vary widely. So based on who I'm calling, I will choose either a high status or a low status pretext. But the ones I like to go to the most are nervous noob and experienced insider. So I'll walk through a little bit about how my SE calls sound. So again, my SE scripts are based a lot on Cialdini's principle of reciprocation. I give a piece of information about myself, like the fact that I use Windows 10, then you're more likely to tell me what OS you use. If I'm straight up going to ask, so, Evan, what operating system do you use? Very unlikely that he's going to respond. But if I'm like, oh, Stefan or Steven, hey, Steven, I cannot figure out how to get my Mac to work. Are you familiar with Macs? Way more likely to respond, right? So I'm going to use that information in a subtle manner so that I can gain access and information. So every piece of this information, every piece of the script was real, worked in the glass booth in the last 2 years. Assuming character. When I called a customer support for a training facility, I said, I'm a nervous flyer and I've never gone to your training facility before and I just have some questions about the process. I know I'm crazy and so sorry for asking all these questions, but I can't stand flying with bags. If I wanted to ship my stuff there for the week, could I use UPS or FedEx? Which do you prefer? And I saw on Yelp that your ESSID Wi-Fi name was blah, 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 blah. Is that still correct? Oh, great. I always get so nervous about Wi-Fi. And my parents are really crazy, and everywhere I go, they want to make sure there's security guards there. I know it's insane, but I saw online that you had Allied Barton security guards, and I just need to confirm that to make sure for my parents. Oh, you do? Okay, great. And I have to do this training, this stupid social engineering awareness training thing when I get there. It's so silly. But I need to make sure that it works on your network, because if it doesn't, then I have to do it on the plane. Can you just type it in real quick? It's www.maliciousurl.com. Does it work? Okay, great. Thank you. Scene. Next one. I called an intern as his boss's boss to do a quick security audit, and I spoofed his headquarters number. So I'm calling from a number that he recognizes, and I'm calling from his boss's boss's number, which he probably has programmed into his phone. And I said, hi. This is the VP of cybersecurity over here. I just need to make sure that your machine is up to date for Monday. We had some quirkiness on the network over the weekend, and I wanted to make sure you didn't have any trouble badging in, accessing your docs, anything like that. Are you still on your Dell Latitude? Windows 7? Okay, great. And it looks like you're still using your Outlook web app, version 15.0.1104. Is that right? Okay, great. Found that from his Instagram. And we've been getting reports that payments are showing up a day late. Have you had that issue? Oh no, that's great. When did you get paid last? And I need to make sure you're not blocked from completing this security assessment, otherwise I'm going to have to keep bothering you, so please go to maliciousurl.com. And when I called a high security server agent and spoofed as a person traveling to give a talk to their team on security, I said, I need to make sure my badge works when I get there. My RFID badge will work when I get there, right? And can you just try my talk link and make sure it works? Last time it was super embarrassing. I could not get it to work. It's maliciousurl.com. And which browser are you using that on? How did you get that to load? Oh, you're on Google Chrome, version 51.6.3? Okay, good, I'll use that for me too. And they thought that maybe it didn't work last time because my antivirus software was out of date. So do you have Norton? Is it installed? Okay, good, so I'll just install that on mine and hopefully that'll work. And they also thought maybe my computer wasn't authorized because I missed my last security awareness training. Did they make you do that every year too? It's so stupid. Now, you might be thinking that last question's a little odd, right? Why would I need to know whether or not they have security awareness training? For me, it helps me pick my targets. If I know that you have security awareness training and you're not on a red team, you're not a security awareness professional, anything like that, it's likely that your team is going to be a little harder to infiltrate. So I'm going to keep digging in there and finding the type of target that's going to be the softest. So train everyone. That's what I could leave you with. Train everyone from even janitorial staff. They need to know to say, can I help you with something? Is there something missing here? Do you need anything, right? Every single member of the team needs to be aware of this because anyone can be targeted. All right, last time I'm showing these emoji takeaways. Solidify them in your brain. We need to step away from our workstation when taking a photo and avoid talking about work in our statuses. In cybersecurity, it often takes technical prowess to own a company quickly. But with social engineering, noobs and experienced attackers are on the same playing field because social media makes it that easy to own a company. Number 2, if you do post about it, make sure you use that antidote. Don't let someone authenticate with publicly available information. If you post about going for runs every week with Fred, and I call and I say, hey, I'm just Fred's friend. He told me to give you this link. He's on a run, right? Do not trust me just because I say I'm Fred's friend. Anyone could say that. So you just got to be a little bit politely paranoid. Take that away and say, sorry, can I help you with something? Who did you say you were again? No one's going to be offended. And the last thing is, women may have an edge in social engineering. We've seen hacktivists like Anonymous and LulzSec use women as a part of their attacks increasingly. And it's because women are viewed a different way in society. That's just how it is right now. People don't expect me to come in and attack their company, right? So I usually am people hold the door for me. Happens all the time. If I'm using a low status pretext, like I just can't figure out how to troubleshoot my website or my machine, can you tell me a little bit about your machine so I can figure out how to troubleshoot it? I'm sorry, I'm just so bad at computers, right? They're more likely to believe it because that's what society has led them to believe. SEs have a much better success rate if they are female calling male, so be aware of that. And we also know that studies have found that our tendency to find women's voices comforting and trustworthy is actually hardwired in us from the womb because we're hearing our mother's voice in the womb. So be skeptical of women that might ask you questions, please. That's pretty much all I have right now. I want to actually turn it over to you. I don't want to talk too much. I want you to become the hacker. So now, in order to stay safe, we got to say bye to our live stream audience. Thank you so much, live stream. You can tweet at me if you have questions. Bye. Let me know when we're good.